Welcome back to the Knight's Book Club podcast. My name is Mason Knight. Sitting across me is my sister, McKiley Knight. Hi, McKiley.
Howdy.
We are already here reviewing a brand new book. This was my choice this week, and I am so glad that you texted me and had interest in this book because it really did worry me a little bit. This is the book that I have wanted to, read and review, but, Andy Weir, we'll jump into it, but initially, he started with The Martian, which was an awesome book, and then adapted into a film in 2015. And I was very excited to talk about this book. This is Project Hail Mary, McKiley. The date published for this was May 4th, 2021, so we're only a year late.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. We are still here in the High Side studio, so it still makes plenty of sense. So, I'll give you a little bit of the background on Andy Weir, and then you can go over the page count and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So the author's background, Weir was raised in California. His father was a physicist, and his mother was an electrical engineer. So very smart parents. Wow. Weir grew up reading classic science fiction, such as the works of Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov. At the age of 15, he began working as a computer programmer for Sandia National Laboratories, American novelist and former computer programmer. His 2011 novel, The Martian, was adapted into a 2015 film of the same name, directed by the great Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
It's
15.
This guy was raised by very, very smart parents, and then obviously was a genius himself, working at the age of 15 at computer programming. So, and not only that, but he's a great author as well. So it is wild. McKiley, do you want to give the page count, audible time, genre, and synopsis?
Sure. The page count is 496 pages. The audible time is 16 hours, 10 minutes long. The genre, of course, is science fiction.
Yes.
The synopsis is kind of long, so bear with me, y'all. Rylan Grace is the sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission, and if he fails, humanity and the Earth itself will perish. Yikes. Except that right now he doesn't know that. He can't even remember his own name, let alone the nature of his assignment or how to complete it. All he knows is that he has been asleep for a very, very long time. And he's just been awakened to find himself millions of miles from home with nothing but two corpses for company.
Well, I got to be honest. Not a lively bunch.
Not at all.
No.
His crewmates are dead. His memories are fuzzily returning, and he realizes that an impossible task now confronts him. Alone on this tiny ship that's been cobbled together by every government and space agency on the planet and hurled into the depths of space, it's up to him to conquer an extinction level threat to our species. And thanks to an unexpected ally, he just might have a chance.
Yeah, you know how I knew, McKiley, right away that this book was science fiction, but more importantly, fiction, is the world could be ending, and there's no way the governments around the world are ever going to team up and fix planet Earth, because that is yet to happen.
It was cute.
No, in all seriousness, a great book. And, it could happen. I mean, if there is an extinction level event.
If the world was possibly ending, I'm sure we could get past our differences and come together.
I would hope, but, I don't have a lot of faith in the current system around the world. But, yeah. So, as we often do, guys, if you guys are new to this podcast, we just go through basically the entire book, talk about some of the highlights, talk about all the things that we really enjoyed about this book. And I'm just so excited to jump right into it. Okay, so we know the main character is Rylan Grace. And when the book starts out, I mean, he's literally waking up to two dead bodies.
Yeah.
But at this point, his memory is completely all over the place. He doesn't know what's going on. And he literally doesn't know why he's here or even who he is.
Yeah.
He can't even remember his name to start out the book. And obviously he's kind of, investigating the surrounding area and trying to figure out, why am I on a spaceship and why is it named Hail Mary, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't remember anything. But he knows obviously that these two crewmates are friends of his, but he can't quite remember who they are yet.
Right.
So scientist Irina Petrova had her first observed an astronomical anomaly that later turned out to be a single-celled extraterrestrial life form known as astrophage.
I was like, I didn't know if you wanted
go.
me to
Yeah,
respond.
no, I absolutely did, but you didn't. So I just continued it myself.
Sorry.
Yeah, but these dots appear to feed on the sun. And the big issue with that is that the sun's output is decreasing by 10 to 15 degrees. Now, again, guys, we're going to be going through this book, but you or I are not nearly as smart as Andy Weir. We do not know detailed science and all that. I mean, I have a basic knowledge and understanding, and I will do my best to try to explain it. But that's what I really enjoyed about this book, Mikhaili, to kind of just go off on a side note here, was you don't have to know a ton about science. You don't know how, you don't have to be like, okay, I got to open up my science book to figure it out. Because what Andy does is he's like, yeah, I know I'm way smarter than you, so let me explain it in the book for you dumb people. Now, and I know that's not his intentions, but it's actually really good writing in all seriousness because, though I am not a science major and don't understand all these little nuances of science, what was so well done is the way he would explain the science in the most simplistic way that people who don't have that sort of knowledge can still thoroughly enjoy this book.
Right.
While also giving you, like, for the hardcore, because there are hardcore sci-fi nerds.
Yeah.
Where it's like, everything's got to line up. The science has got to be real. But he also does a really good job of doing that as well. Obviously, astrophage is not real of what we know of. So it is like a fictional cell organism. But, nonetheless, a really, really good way to describe science and everything. So Hail Mary's mission is basically to figure out how to stop astrophage.
Yeah.
Because it's dimming the sun, which is going to cause massive climate change and kill billions of people. So Rylan, over the course of time in this book, eventually recalls his research into these particles known as astrophage, as I just brought up. But what's so funny about this is Rylan is a junior high school teacher.
Yeah.
So like junior high means middle school science teacher. But remember, he formerly worked in speculative extraterrestrial biology.
Yep.
And that's something too. We're going to jump all the way around. This is a spoiler podcast now, so we don't have to worry really about anything.
Thank the Lord.
We'll kind of jump around. We don't have to go scene by scene, chapter by chapter, but that was a really good discovery for me, and I really thought it built layers and made Rylan a very three-dimensional character. Because this whole time we're thinking, he joined this suicide mission because keep in mind, they had enough astrophage. They could produce enough astrophage to get there.
Yep.
But it was a suicide mission because he didn't have enough astrophage to burn back to go home.
Yeah.
But
or enough food.
Or enough food either. Yeah. I mean, luckily his two other crewmates died. I mean, it's kind of harsh, but hey, we weren't emotionally attached to them. But they did die, so he had a little bit more food. But I definitely love that aspect of Rylan being a three-dimensional character where the whole time we think, wow, he definitely wanted to be on this trip. He's saving mankind. What a hero. But then we find out that in a lot of ways, like he was kind of, for lack of a better word, a coward. Yeah. And that he didn't want to go on this trip. He didn't want to sacrifice himself. And, Strat, who, we'll get into Strat and all the things, Dr. Eva Strat, she brought Rylan onto the team, but she has unlimited authority worldwide. Yep. So and she knows that eventually she'll probably be held for war crimes or whatever, but her main focus in this book is saving humanity at all costs. It does not matter if you lose a few lives. It does not matter if you do some things unethically. She wants to save mankind. Yeah. That is her one sole purpose. And that's even to the fact of being implicated in war crimes, or not even war crimes, but international crimes, I should say, and being maybe potentially executed.
Well, okay. So I was suspicious of Strat from the very beginning because I literally had zero idea coming into this book. I mean, all I knew is that it was science fiction. That's literally all I knew. And so I was suspicious of her. I was suspicious of all the leaders because I was like, are they the ones who created astrophage?
Yeah.
And I didn't think that really what she was doing was unethical because they tested like the bodies or whatever to see who could handle being
And it was 1 in every 7,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, they have to do something in order to save the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I understood this fantastic writing. I understood all of Ryland's issues.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he wants to save humanity, but at the same time, he doesn't want to die. He didn't ask to be put on this suicide mission. They basically forced him, you know, because he's a scientist or whatever. But that's what I loved about the writing, though, is because I felt for him, but at the same time, I was angry at him because it's like, bro, literally just saved the world. Like,
right. Well, and not only that, but it was Strat kind of, calling him out for all his stuff. She goes, you don't think I did mass amounts of research on you and who you are. When he was a speculative extraterrestrial biologist and he was writing these papers and he wrote this, I forget the name of the actual like academic paper that he wrote, but he wrote this and it was not well received. So he just gave up and became a junior, or I should say middle school, whatever, science teacher. She goes, you're a coward. Like everything you've done in life, if you don't get the acceptance, if you don't get the glam for it, then you essentially just don't care.
I have her quote. It says, "Do you think I don't know you, Dr. Grace?" She yelled, "You're a coward and you always have been. You abandoned a promising scientific career because people didn't like a paper you wrote. You retreated to the safety of children who worship you for being the cool teacher. You don't have a romantic partner in your life because that would mean you might suffer heartbreak. You avoid risk like the plague."
And again, brilliant writing. Because
literally.
Because this whole time, throughout this entire journey, we obviously Ryland is the hero, and he is the hero at the end of the book, but he's a multi-layered character where you see that he did have this internal struggle with actually like giving up his life for sacrificing something. Because, in a lot of ways, like he was a coward. And it's hard for me to say that because it's hard to put in perspective because you and I are not in that situation. But again, that's why it's such good writing.
Yes.
Is you can put yourself in the shoes of Ryland. You can sympathize with him. You may not agree with him, but you understand his perspective.
Yeah.
And the same way with Strat, too. Strat was not this evil supervillain who was like constantly like, trying to like menacingly destroy people's lives. No. You could sympathize with that character as well and understand that her goal was to save mankind and everything surrounding it. And so, hats off to the writer. Really good on that point. So, obviously, we know that astrophage can store an immense amount, an enormous, just crazy amount of energy of mass, way more than nuclear power, anything that we have ever seen on planet Earth, right? And it's able to obviously fuel Project Hail Mary to shoot it, light years into space to be able to figure out what exactly is going on. So they get their energy from the stars, such as the sun, and then because they need carbon, they go searching for carbon dioxide. Well, Venus is largely comprised of carbon dioxide, where they actually breed. This astrophage breeds, and then what they do is they go to the sun with their offspring, and that's kind of how they, reproduce, astrophage. And the data suggests that astrophage have infected many stars and can literally affect stars up to 8 light years away. Now, light years, everyone knows what that is, but it's crazy to really think about that. It's the speed of light for 8 full years. Yeah. Which is an astronomically fast rate. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. Wow. So it's really a galactic event more so than just a global event. I mean, this is affecting every life form out there in an 8 light year radius. So in the actual present day, Ryland finds that a spaceship is heading to Tau Ceti, yes. A star located in the cluster of other astro-infected stars, but unlike the others, it has not dimmed. So kind of what they're doing here is they're trying to find out why exactly this specific star is not getting infected with the astrophage the same way that, planet Earth and the sun and everything else are. And then obviously during this discovery of him being shot out, Ryland eventually finds out his name, finds out what the Hail Mary project is all about. And then he comes across an alien spaceship.
Okay. So, can I just read this really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's our podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Before he could remember his name, there was a computer, and he had to answer his name correctly in order to get to a different part of the ship.
Yep.
I just found this because I was looking for it. So it says, I pull the sheet off the bed and wrap it around my torso a couple times. I pull one corner over my shoulder from behind my back and tie it from the knot. Instant toga. Self-ambulation detected, says the computer. What's your name? And then he responds, I am Emperor Comatose. Kneel before me. And the computer immediately goes, incorrect.
Incorrect. Well, and that was, see, that's another great thing about this book is like there were actually like really funny moments throughout this for a very dark topic. I mean, you're talking about a global extinction, a galactic extinction in a lot of ways, even with other life forms that we deal with. But there were a lot of really funny moments.
There was a couple of times when I was at work and I genuinely laughed out loud because I was like, it's a great way to keep somebody who doesn't know a lot about science, me. It's a great way to keep the reader entertained and still like, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Kind of like, not focused, but attention, paying attention, basically.
Paying attention. Yeah. So, hats off.
So, now we get to talk about our favorite space alien of all time, Rocky.
My heart.
So Ryland comes across this crazy spaceship, right? And he's like, oh my God, I'm coming across an alien. Like, this is the wildest thing ever. And I love the perspective of Ryland, too, because it is exactly how you would expect a human to react, light years away from Earth.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it's an alien. Like, is this alien from like Ridley Scott's Alien where it's like, it's going to rip my face off? Or is this like a very friendly, like scientific alien? Luckily, it's the latter for old Ryland. And we come across this alien named Rocky. And Rocky is great. And from the planet, is it Arid?
Arid.
I'm kind of dumb. So he's dealing with this. So Arid, the planet Arid is dealing with the same problems that planet Earth is having with this astrophage that is consuming the star with which their planet kind of, survives. And something else about Rocky too is his planet is primarily consisting of pneumonia.
Not pneumonia. Ammonia.
Ammonia. Did I say pneumonia?
Yeah.
Okay, and see, that's why ammonia. I'm not a scientist, everyone.
You just said the word wrong. It's fine.
I said, whoops. So, did I really say pneumonia? Yeah. I'm so embarrassed.
And ammonia. I literally wrote it down. Rocky breathing ammonia, and he uses echolocation to see.
I'm never going to live that one down. So, oh gosh, that's so embarrassing. So, the problem regarding their star, which is 40 Eridani, right? It's 40 Eridani. The actual star is called 40 Eridani. And anyway, he's investigating Tai Seti for the same exact reason. Iridians see, this is really cool too, because like they're like weird like spider aliens.
So cool.
And I love how he incorporated that. And instead of making like Rocky this like villain spider who's like consuming human flesh, he was actually a really cool and well thought out alien too, because these Iridians, as which Ryland coined the phrase, they see using this like passive sonar instead of light. Mm-hmm. So like it's like a sonar, instead of actual seeing light and particles. And their language consists of like musical chords.
So cool.
And I love that development. This is such a cool take and something I've literally never seen in any science fiction book or any sort of film. But these Iridians, they speak in musical chords. But it's like musical, but it's not exactly. What he actually kind of referenced it to is like the way whales communicate.
Yeah, echolocation.
Echolocation stuff. So it was really cool. And then he programmed his computer to be able to pick up notes. And it was this process for a couple hours in the book. Mm-hmm. And you would think typically in a book like this, like, oh my gosh, I get it. You're learning the language. But it was just so cool to find the development of how he discovered how to communicate with Rocky.
Yeah.
And
Grace being like the genius he is after, I don't know how long, but eventually he didn't really even need the computer to figure out what Rocky was saying.
Yeah.
Because in the book, he would say something and Rocky just, knowing, like he would hold up one finger, Rocky would say, and then they just learned each other's language. It was so cool. Yeah. I loved it so much.
Yeah, it really was.
And the audiobook, the way that Rocky was speaking
So
at first. Yeah, so I recommended this book to somebody. And I was like, don't read the actual book. Listen to the audiobook. Trust me. Trust me.
Well, it was awesome because like the audiobook really incorporated what it would sound like for like this alien Rocky to speak. And I loved how they started by just the notes. So bloop, 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 bloop.
Yeah.
You know, like a different kind of like R2D2 type. And then eventually as he's programming this language, you start to hear the actual like robotic voice. But it's kind of like an alien robotic voice. Yeah. It was cool. It was like a really good mixture where it wasn't like, I am here.
Because you know who would be speaking.
Right.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. And I love the relationship between Rylan and Rocky too. They become really good friends over the course of time. We don't have to get into every specific detail, but one of the most heartwarming moments for me in this book was definitely Rocky's sacrifice for Rylan. You know, obviously they have a little bit of a problem, and he knows that Rylan's going to die, and he goes, save yourself, save the planet, and then he locks himself in there. And it's a really good moment, though, because, you know, eventually Rylan's able to save him. And it comes into play later on in the book, too, you know, because we see this journey with Rylan and going from being an absolute coward to being forced to be on this ship to literally sacrificing his life, not for the human race, because he's already successfully done that. He sent the Beatles off, or what was left of the Beatles, back to planet Earth. But then he went back because he knew that Rocky's ship was consisting entirely of xenonite. Yeah. Now, I am kind of jumping towards the end a little bit. We can kind of explain the process of what happened with the astrophage and what is it called again? Oh, it's Tyamoeba?
Tyamoeba, yeah.
Tyamoeba. Or we're going to be real close, guys. We might be a little off on the pronunciation, but it's this enhanced Tyamoeba that's resistant to nitrogen. So what happens is, like, if you even put a little bit of nitrogen in Tyamoeba, you can kill it.
Yep.
Right? And this is a natural predator towards astrophage. But what they did is through the natural selection, through natural evolution, they were able to, like, at the speed of light, constantly, like, make it to where it was only 3% of nitrogen, they could survive, up to 3%. But what they didn't account for was the xenonite that was constructing of Rocky's entire ship, but then the containment particles is where this Tyamoeba was able to eat through, or not even eat through, but kind of like mold into it to hide. And the astrophage was able to hide through it. And then, you know, you get this event where if it leaks, that astrophage is getting consumed within hours. You could have millions of units of astrophage, and it could be eaten in hours because, you know, obviously the reproduction is very rapid. But they managed to contain the situation and swap the fuel. But once the nitrogen-resistant Tyamoeba is ready, Rylan and Rocky... So Rylan goes back. He sacrifices himself. He knows he only has a little bit of astrophage left to go get Rocky. But he says, you know, I have to sacrifice myself. I cannot let an entire planet of Iridians die.
And at this point, he sent off the Beatles back to...
planet Earth.
I almost said the United States.
Yeah, no. The whole world.
Planet Earth.
Just United States. Everyone else is consumed.
With all of his research and all that stuff. He sent the Beatles back.
Right.
Anyway.
And, you know, I really enjoyed that because that's like the hero's journey. You know, from going to a coward to being the hero of the story, knowing full well that he would die in the process. Because we also... are kind of jumping everywhere, which is okay. But like he also knows that the Iridians, ammonia, so he cannot live on the planet. And I didn't say pneumonia like an idiot. But ammonia, he can't live on this planet. Yeah. So he knows he's good as dead. And obviously all of Rocky's, all the Iridians' food contains high amounts of metal that are extremely toxic to the human body. So he has no food or fuel.
Yeah.
To get home. So he knows now that even though he could go back to planet Earth, he now knows that this suicide mission to save Rocky and the Iridians
Yep.
is what he was meant to do.
Yeah.
And it's really a beautiful story because I love the friendship between these two. And I know you texted me like a quarter of the way or halfway through the book, and you're like, Rocky better not kill Rylan. And I'm like, I haven't started the book yet.
I was like, I swear. But one of my favorite quotes from like, so can we talk about like the beginning of their friendship?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can just jump
basically
around.
just, yeah. So he's in space, whatever, and he sees from a distance this other ship.
Mm-hmm.
And at first he doesn't know that it's a ship. And then it gets closer and closer. And, okay, did his ship, Ryland's ship, did it have, like, arms? Because how were they waving back and forth to each other?
Well, remember,
Or was it the light?
It was remember that later on, he was talking to Rocky, and he was like, oh, so that's why you picked this glass. Remember when they were communicating?
Before. Like when their spaceships were separated.
Oh, yes. I think they did have robotic arms.
Yeah. So first Rylan like waves with the ship or whatever, and then Rocky does it back, and then he waves again.
Yeah.
And then Rocky does. I love that. I thought it was so funny. But anyway, Rocky brings his spaceship closer or whatever. I mean, he did send him like a gift, but I'm skipping ahead. And then they connected their ships. And then after that, excuse me, I'm kind of under the weather, but he goes, I've gone from sole surviving space explorer to a guy with a wacky new roommate. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
That was like one of my favorite quotes because it's so true because Rocky is just something else.
Yeah, Rocky's great. And they do kind of bicker at times, too.
Yeah, I
and
love it.
Get very, frustrated with each other, especially like when Rylan says, I'll be back in 8 hours. And that's what's so awesome about this book is everything is explained, but it's explained so simply.
Yeah.
Like even the time of the Iridians to the time of what it would be on planet Earth.
I could see it in my head, their clock.
Yes.
When I was at work, it was so weird because I was like, oh, I don't think I'll be able to understand like their time, and then it's like the curse of L and then the blah, blah, blah.
And then they would it would be Earth seconds is how they would calculate what a full day was for the Iridians.
What was the full day? Wasn't it like 6 hours?
No, it would have been, I think it was longer than an Earth day because keep in mind the Iridians live like 600 or 700 years.
Yeah, that made me kind of sad.
Yeah. Another thing that they explain really well too, and this is like, again, like everything is just so well thought out in this book. It just blows my mind how you could be this thorough in a science fiction book.
Imagine planning this book out.
Well, that's the thing because so many science fiction books, in my opinion, they're good, but they don't explain enough of the actual science. They just go, oh, here's a fictional thing. But what I loved is when Rocky finally does kind of describe to Rylan that he is the sole survivor of a 23 crew of Iridians. And he goes, well, what are you? And he goes, I'm an engineer. And he goes, so you were near the astrophage and whatnot? And he goes, yeah, I was down there the whole time. And we come to find out that the Iridian people, or the Iridian race of aliens, they had no idea what radiation was.
Yeah.
And there's a mass amount of that, obviously. So that's what ended up killing his crew. And it was really a good discovery because then, that's obviously giving knowledge to the Iridian people about what radiation is and how it affects their bodies.
Yeah.
But again, just really, really well thought out. At the end, let's just jump to the end because I actually really enjoyed the ending of this book.
Wait.
Okay.
Are we ending?
No, if you want to keep talking, let's go.
Yeah, because can we talk about the sleeping?
Oh, yes. How Rocky, their planet is they sleep. And I love the fact that Rocky, like in his species or this alien race, it's embarrassing to eat because they defecate out of their mouths.
Yeah.
Which is, it would be a little embarrassing. It's bad enough to, I had to blare some music because I had a pre-poop podcast and I blared some music so you didn't have to hear that. But I could only imagine if we had to eat and poop out of our mouths, it'd be pretty disgusting. But I did like that aspect.
So the sleeping, I don't know. This book was so good. I just have so many quotes. It says, I can't imagine explaining sleep to someone who has never heard of it. Hey, I'm going to fall unconscious and hallucinate for a while. By the way, I spend a third of my time of my life doing this. I can't do it for a while. Oh, if I can't do it for a while, I go insane and eventually die. No need for concern.
Yeah. Well, luckily for him, he finally realized that the Irradians do sleep as well.
Yeah. What was it? I was going to ask you a question. Why are the Iridians, why do they need somebody to watch them? What was the point of it?
Because it's different than humans. So humans can actually wake up at any time, right? And get shook and awake, or a loud sound can wake you up. A lot of different things can wake up a human.
Yeah.
But when the Iridians sleep, they sleep. Everything shuts down. There is no movement. So they cannot wake up unless it's obviously on their own, which the time frames vary for Iridians. So, I mean, again, they sleep in between 4 and I want to say it's like 4 and 6 hours.
I thought it was 12.
Maybe 4 and 12 hours. Yeah, but they don't have to, they're not on the same sleeping schedule as humans. But that's why they would watch each other sleep.
And then the first time Rocky was like, you sleep, I watch.
Yeah.
And then Grace was like, and then, Rocky explained it. And then when Rocky went back to his ship to go back to his home planet, Grace was like, it's kind of weird not having somebody watch me sleep.
Not having an alien watch me sleep.
I was like, oh, they're best friends.
No, they really are. They really were best friends. I mean, all the way to a point where Ryland's willing to give up his life for Rocky. That's a bromance.
Yeah.
That's a real bromance. I'll tell you that much. If you're willing to die for your mate, it's pretty gangster.
Gangster.
So is there anything else you want to talk about before we jump into the ending? Because I really did enjoy the ending, and I do want to touch up on it briefly.
I'm looking through my notes. Hold on.
All right, no problem. But yeah, no, for me though, this book was just, it was just so much fun. I enjoyed every second of it. The science was explained really well for people that may not be science majors or know a ton about science. It's still very much an enjoyable listen, an enjoyable read. I'll kind of touch up on the ending, and if you have anything else to add, you can. But so Ryland eventually saves Rocky and saves the Iridians, and Rocky's like, well, just come to my home planet. And he's like, well, I'm going to die anyway, so I'll go check it out. And the Iridians actually build this facility, this place where Ryland could actually thrive and grow as a human being. It was a little discerning that they would use samples, and it was weird, guys. So it's not like he's peeling off flesh and eating his own flesh.
No.
But it's like it's kind of like a cloning of his own meat.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that would make him go a little crazy with the cannibalism or whatnot, or if they were able to genetically switch it enough to where it would not affect his body in such capacity. I feel like with
how intelligent Rocky's species is, I mean, Grace probably explained it to them cannibalism, whatever. So they probably
reconfigured the DNA or something to some capacity.
Definitely.
That's what I like too about the Iridians and Earth is it wasn't this all-powerful, all-knowing alien species where it's they know everything under the stars and they can travel and they can do this. They were a very advanced species, but the simple things like radiation they weren't aware of because they didn't have the proper technology, nor did they have the same capacity of science with human beings because they could not visually see. They saw through sonar. And I love those aspects because it would be really easy and really lazy to kind of be oh, they're all knowing. They know everything.
Yeah.
But
they had their faults, and that's what made it so good.
Yeah, it made it really powerful. But Ryland goes to the Iridians planet, and it's really beautiful because he's living there, and at this time, he's 70. He believes he's 60 or 70 years old. And I just really enjoyed the ending because I was not expecting it, but they built this facility for him, and then he's there, and he is now a teacher for the children Iridian on the planet.
I love it.
And typically
he
for
did
me,
love his kids.
Yeah, typically for me, an ending like that, I'd roll my eyes and be like, this is so dumb. But for whatever reason, it really worked in this book for me.
Did.
Because it's kind of a throwback to obviously his children I mean, not his biological children. Obviously, he's a teacher, but he did care about his students. You could
really
clearly
did.
tell that he cared about mankind, and like he got really sad with the idea that half his students could potentially die by the time he even gets back, or by the time they even discover how to combat this astrophage.
Yeah.
But I just really did enjoy it because like I feel like he found a new home. He found a new species of alien to really love and endure. And I love how it was ambiguous as far as like we don't know if Rylan ever will make that trip back to Earth. So Earth will hold him as a hero forever, not knowing that he's actually alive on an alien planet.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved the ending. I thought it was great.
As did I. Mikaylee, should we get into our review? Or excuse me, our rating for this book?
Wait.
Okay, go ahead. What else you got?
There are a couple quotes from Rocky I have to say because
Okay.
they're so funny. One of them was, "Good, proud. I am scary space monster. You are leaky space blob."
Oh, because they were talking about the biology.
Yeah.
And obviously in Iridian,
Yeah.
they're 600 pounds. They're small creatures, but they're super dense. But then, like, when Rylan was describing what a human body was, he's like,
Yeah.
we're basically made up of water. And so that's why he was
Leaky
saying
space
leaky,
blob.
because humans constantly, defecate and urinate while, and I'm trying to use right words, so,
Yeah.
but those are fine. I mean, it's
Those are fine.
scientific, guys. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, but I don't know if we can say that technically. I don't know what we can say. But no, nonetheless, but Rocky's people don't do that. They're very dense, and like when they do eat, they
And they're
also
heavy.
defecate. So it's, yeah. But I did enjoy that quote.
And then, usually you not stupid. Why stupid?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, the describing of like, because at this point in the book, like, in this kind of, we're bouncing all over the point, but I love that quote because it was so funny. Because this was when Rylan had gotten like 4 hours of sleep in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Normally you're not stupid. Why stupid?" question. And I love that I love that Rocky would always end, like when he wanted to ask a question, he would say question.
Yep.
And that's just something that like you can kind of chuckle and laugh at every time,
And there was one point where he was like asking him, Rocky was like, "When was last time you slept?" Because he was being very agitated.
He goes, "I don't want you to be stupid."
And then
He's like, humans get stupid when no sleep.
it says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh when I read this. It says, he puts his claw against the divider. Fist my bub.
Fist my bump.
And then he goes, fist bump.
Fist bump.
It's just fist bump. And then Rocky goes, understand.
Understand. Yeah.
One more and then I'll be done reading quotes. It says, Rocky says this. He goes, work fast. And then Rylan says, yeah, I point at the screen. First I have to wait for my computer to wake up. Rocky goes, hurry. And he goes, okay, I'll wait faster. And then Rocky goes, sarcasm.
Yeah, sarcasm. And I love that Rocky eventually picked up on what sarcasm was.
And then he
to
was
humans.
being sarcastic back to Ryland.
But again,
So
it's I know I keep going back to it, but it's this journey, this really just beautifully written journey of like from not having any communication with this species to understand the intricacies of language and of how to communicate with one another to where this alien species could then understand and grasp the concept of sarcasm. But like it was very believable. And that's what I love. Was. Because it wasn't just like instantly Rocky knew what sarcasm was. It was over this long course of time. And it's guys, I'm telling you right now, I know we spoiled the whole book. So would be pointless for you.
But there are so many parts that we missed out that are extremely important to the plot.
Story. Yeah.
And
it's just a great book.
The writing is just so eloquently written that it felt like you were in the spaceship with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like
even though I know absolutely nothing about science, I felt like I understood everything that they were talking about.
And I was actually bouncing back between two sci-fi books because I don't want to constantly pick one genre. So I'm trying to like switch it up a little bit. The same way where like you will pick a romance book, you'll pick a thriller book. I've picked thriller books as well.
Yeah.
I want to eventually, my next choice will kind of be like a thriller horror film or book. But Project Hail Mary, I was going back and forth between two sci-fi books, and that was Project Hail Mary, and then another book that I've recently listened to, and I love the first one, not a fan of the second one, but it's called Infinite, which deals with kind of the same concept as this, except it deals more in VR, but it's also like saving humanity and whatnot. But this book was just, as much as I enjoyed the first Infinite book, I'm so glad that we reviewed this one.
Oh, I am so happy you picked this one.
It really blew me away.
This
it's just the
honestly
writing's
might
awesome.
be one of my top 5 books.
Yeah. Well, good thing, because we've reviewed 6 books on this podcast, so it's probably not going to pass Then She Was Gone, because you do love that book.
No, honestly, I mean, they're 2 completely different genres.
They are.
So
absolutely.
for like a sci-fi book, this one is definitely my top one.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite sci-fi books.
And I'm probably going to listen to it again multiple times because I just loved it so much.
Well, then let's jump into this, Mikaylee. Let's talk about story, narration, and overall. So go ahead and give me your out of 5 stars. What would you rate these 3 categories?
I'll start with narration. I'm not sure the name of the narrator. He did freaking brilliant.
Yes.
His voice is exactly the voice that I would have picked out for Rylan Grace.
Yep.
As well for
totally
as well as for Rocky. I'm giving the narration 5 stars. If I could give him more than 5 stars, I probably would, because it was so well done. Even Strat's voice, perfect.
Yeah, I tell you, I almost feel bad that we almost need to look up this individual's name.
Yeah.
Because it is worth giving him a shout out, because it really was good. Like for me, it's narrator was Ray Porter.
Shout out to Ray Porter,
because the narration was flawless in this throughout the whole book. And as you just said, the voice of Rylan Grace is exactly the voice that I thought of when Ray Porter was talking. And not only that, but he was also doing the voice, of Rocky. And I know I just did the Obama thing where it's like if but nonetheless of Rocky and of Strat, and like the voices were really well done. And that's one of the biggest things for narration. Yeah.
Oh,
he was
really?
He was a narrator for all of it.
Shout out to that man.
There was not 2.
I didn't even know. I thought it was 2 completely different people.
No. Which is just that so
just shows
impressive.
how great he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just narrated by Ray Porter. That's it. So as far as narration, easily 5 stars for me. This is one of the greatest, or one of the best narrated books. And I've listened to probably close to 200 books on Audible over the course of many, many years. And this is one of the best narrated books I've ever listened to. As far as story, for me, I'm just going to come out and say this is an all-around 5-star book for me.
Yep, same. I was going to say that.
All-around 5-star book. This is one of the best sci-fi books, if not the best sci-fi book I've ever had the chance and opportunity to read and listen to. Like, it was just really, really good. And it's got that re-listenability, if that's a word. But yeah, just so much fun from start to finish. And shout out to Andy Weir, man. I mean, what a writer. What a writer he is. Mikaylee, how about you? What would you give this out of 5 stars?
So narration 5 easily. What were the other options?
Story and overall.
Story. Is that like the way it was written? I don't know. For some reason, that is just not clicking in my brain.
So story, like how good was the development of the story? From
I'd say 5 stars, because I loved the flashbacks of like when he was coming out of his
days, his coma
days, and
and describing the drug that Strat gave to him because she knew, in that whole conflict too of like being like, well, by the time you do remember, it's not going to matter, because you're going to be so invested in your work that you're going to do it. And she was right on the money about that. Yeah. Because he got so far into it that he says, well, I got to complete it now. I'm already here.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not just going to let the world burn just because of Strat. So anyway, story, 5 stars. All total, 5 stars. This book was, I want to buy this book so bad just so I can put it on my shelf and be like,
here it is.
It's going to be next to It Ends With Us, and Then She Was Gone.
I'm telling you right now, when I do my first fantasy book, that is how you're going to feel about the Mistborn trilogy that we will do eventually on this podcast, because I just finished the Mistborn trilogy, and the way you feel about Hail Mary is how you're going to feel about the Mistborn trilogy, because it's not that hardcore. Like the same way this wasn't hardcore sci-fi, it's not hardcore fantasy. It's really easy to follow, and it's just a journey, and it's just so much fun. You know?
I was so concerned about this book when you told me, because I like looked it up on Audible and then I Googled it.
I know you were texting me. You were like, I'm worried about all the science.
I'm
if
like,
I'm going to be able to follow it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason, just anything about science will not stay in my head.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't click. Like, I don't even remember, like, the way the earth is tilted on the axes. I'm like, oh, don't know.
Well, that's why in this one, I tried to describe it a little more because I know a little bit more.
Yeah,
about
I was
science,
like, I'm just going to let you take the reins,
but I
buddy.
mean, and I mean a little bit more, not much more, but I'm definitely no expert in science.
I do better
either,
with
but-
English and
There you
literature.
go, yeah. All right. Well, that is our review for the 2021 book, Project Hail Mary, written by Andy Weir, narrated by Ray Porter. Shout out to this fantastic book. This is one of my favorite ones we've ever reviewed on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to be, so I have listened to The Martian. I have not got to Artemis yet, and I will definitely be checking that out. That was a book before Hail Mary.
Oh, I was going to ask if it was a sequel. Bummer.
Yeah, I believe-
I want him to write a sequel
Yeah,
about his life, about Ryland's life on Rocky's planet.
Yeah, so I believe this book was before Hail Mary. But nonetheless, really job well done. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you guys could take a second, smash that like button, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell notification as we drop reviews here every Monday at 8 a.m. We already have a few of our books that we're reviewing, previewing, or premiering, I should say, on our YouTube channel. So you guys can kind of see the list and follow along with us. McKiley's running our Instagram, our social medias, and we'll be posting a list for our upcoming books for the next month as well. Very much looking forward to that. Guys, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. I'm going to try to get on Audible soon on the podcast. Why not? It makes sense.
Yeah.
We're on Samsung. We're on iHeartRadio, FM radio. Literally anywhere you guys listen to podcasts, you guys can find the Knight's Book Club podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is McKiley Knight. And until next time.
Bye.